So I started off near the inlet here of that pond. I thought that it would give me a good chance to maybe catch some fish. I had normally had some success on that side of the pond before. And as you can see, it's starting to snow just a little bit, and we've got a pretty good breeze. So I stayed here for a little while, kept with that same dropper setup, but didn't get anything here. So after a little while, I moved on to this second section here, and as you can see, there's a lot of snow on the rocks, so I couldn't get as close to the water as maybe I wanted. And you can see the snow is still coming down. It's starting to kick up here a little bit. And at some point during this second section, the split shot that I had started with fell off, and I ended up switching flies from a Grasshopper and a brassie to a two brassie setup. And I continued to fish that two brassie setup for most of the rest of the day. And there were a few reasons for that. One, I had a lot of success in prior visits with those flies. And then second, it was pretty cold out, and so I didn't want to get my hands or make my hands any colder than they already were by switching out flies. As I moved on to this third section, I kept that same fly setup that I'd mentioned, the two brassies. Although at some point here, the split shot that I had on fell off, and I decided just to leave the flies as they were. And as you can see here, the sun is starting to come out a little bit on the water, and that gave me some hope that, hey, we might get some fish activity as the water warmed up a little. In addition, the snow here is still coming down pretty good, but it was a little bit warmer than it had been, and so I continued to fish this area for quite a while. Unfortunately, though, didn't get any fish despite those changes. So one of the best parts of this trip was the solitude. There was no one else around. I had the water to myself, and at some point this duck came out and swam around for a little bit, and that was just so cool to see. So moving on to this fourth section here, I thought that structure there on the right might, give me a chance of catching some fish. So I thought they might be holed up there. Previously, I'd been fishing more towards the center in the open water. And along with changing where I was fishing, I also switched flies again. This time I had added a weighted brassie or a weighted nymph as the bottom fly. Yeah. Ended up spending quite a bit of time around this section Unfortunately, though, didn't catch anything here either. Yeah, and the weather really had started to change as the day went on. Here you can see the sun is fully coming out, which was great. And that gave me some hope that there might be a little more activity, might get some bites, and ended up moving on down the pond to fish another section. So I moved on to the final section and almost immediately ended up getting a bite. I didn't get a shot of it here on video, but that single bite really was super exciting. Ended up fishing for a little bit longer after that with hopes of catching a fish, but ended the day without getting any fish at all. And as I reflect back on this experience, I think the first lesson was it's really good to set expectations, right? Kind of know what you might get, what you might not get. I knew that going in today, the chances of me catching a fish were pretty low, right? Given the conditions and the lack of experience. And the second thing was really learning to be content with the opportunity that I had, right? It wasn't the most ideal fishing day. It wasn't the best fishing day, but just to be grateful for the fact that I got to get out on the water in January.